Welcome to 0.24%, the podcast that explores the realities of being a founder from an underrepresented community, where we talk about the truth behind the numbers and the people working to change them. Today, I'm joined by someone who has quietly shaped the UK startup ecosystem for over 2 decades, Manoj Ranaweera, founder of Techcelerate, Lite and SkilledUp Life. Manoj has built and exited multiple companies. But what makes his story especially compelling is his focus on action over advocacy. While many talk about representation and access, Manoj just gets on with building, connecting founders, sharing knowledge, and creating platforms that help others grow. In this conversation, we'll explore his journey, the origins of SkilledUp Life, and his perspective on the investment landscape, as well as that important tension between doing the work and changing the system. So, welcome, Manoj, to 0.24%.
Thank you for having me, Michael.
Okay. So, Manoj, for those who don't know your journey, can you tell us a bit about your background and what led you to create platforms like Techcelerate, Lite, and SkilledUp Life?
Thank you. It's a very good starting point. So let me start with my age. I'm 57 years old, and I'm a late bloomer. So I had a proper job. I went to the normal channels. I did A-levels, went to university, graduated, landed in my dream, got my dream job. And then somewhere down the line, I got a little bit fed up with being an employee of a very large organization. And I stumbled upon an idea back in 2004 to join a company as an investor employee. At that time, I just finished my executive MBA at Manchester Business School, so I had a lot of confidence. Perhaps I didn't have enough experience, but I got involved with a startup as an investor employee. But before I did the investment, I did some due diligence and found out that they had a massive black hole. So the company went into voluntary liquidation. I thought I could build my startup using the idea they had. Little did I know that I didn't know anything about building a tech company. So I spent the next 2 years burning everything I had, remortgaging the house. By end of 2006, so I ran it for 2 years, we almost raised $250,000 funding. Then ended up having to shut it down. And then I realized that I didn't know how to build a tech company. I didn't know anyone else building tech companies. There was a lot of things that I had to learn. So I started one event with the help of KPMG and TechCrunch. And that grew to about 100 events from 2006 to 2013. No one else did anything in Manchester in terms of bringing together tech founders, investors. I was the only person who did that. So we built a thriving community, and I used that time to learn what I didn't know. But guess what? Everybody else who came to those events didn't know what they were doing either, so they also learned with me. So that's how we went to build that first phase of Manchester's tech startup ecosystem. If you think about 2013 and now, Manchester is thriving. And companies that are thriving right now were founded well after 2013. Everybody probably heard about Matlian. So Matlian was founded around 2013. And at that time, nobody actually understood who they were, what they were trying to do. Guess what? Now everybody knows who they are. So the Manchester is booming as a result of some of the activities me and others did during that period. So that's how I got into Techcelerate, and that's how I got into tech startups.
Okay. So did you always see yourself as getting into technology, or you said it was your dream job. So that was something that you always wanted to get into?
No, my dream job was to become an engineer.
Oh, okay.
Right, because my father was an engineer. He went through from a junior all the way to running the very big government organization. And so I was inspired with what he was doing. So my plan from very young age was to become an engineer, and I achieved that. I became a chartered engineer, and after that, sort of I sort of felt like I did some amazing projects in UK, Middle East, elsewhere, but I felt like I was just a number, and I saw also waste in doing these projects that sometimes last for 7-8 years. So I wanted to sort of get into management consultancies. That's why I did the MBA. But during that period, somehow I got interested in startups without knowing what a startup was. But I'm running tech companies, but actually the only subject I ever failed was software engineering.
I mean, you know what? That's quite funny because running a tech startup, I can't code. I am not a technical founder, so it's not important to be able to actually do the coding. From my perspective, I'm sure if you speak to other people, they'll say, "Well, if you're not a coder, or if you're not a technical founder, then you're at a disadvantage." But yeah, I mean, you could say that, but it was never my forte. I was never good at maths. I wasn't good at that type of analytical thinking, and I think that to be an engineer or someone technical, you have to be of a certain mindset or a framing, and that was never for me. I was more an ideas guy, and I always say that engineers can build, but if there's no idea to build, then what good are they? So I've always been the ideas guy. Now you've been building tech startups since 2004, with 2 exits under your belt. Looking back, what lessons from those early experiences shaped how you now support other founders?
So I had a lot of failures. So if you think about the first tech startup, it was called Abdex. We were trying to build a invoicing platform so that accounts payable and accounts receivable worked seamlessly. I failed. So that failure led to the realization that I didn't know what I was doing. So if you think about Techcelerate came as a result of that learning. So Techcelerate was trying to fix the problem I had, which is no knowledge of how to build a company, not knowing who else is building it. Because you could take advice from a lot of people, but most advisors have no idea what it takes to build a tech company. They are using pretty much general knowledge or whatever the experience they have to tell somebody else how to do it, but they themselves haven't done it. And I wasn't interested in those people. I was interested in talking to people who were going through the same pain as I was. So that's because lack of knowledge ended up creating Techcelerate. So Techcelerate ran until 2013. Then this little company called GP Pulldown came around saying, can we buy your Northern Tech Awards, which they did. GP Pulldown now is a mega company. So that has a lifetime. So Techcelerate, you see, today doesn't need to go and build Manchester's tech ecosystem because it exists. There isn't a single player like when I was doing it that is required in Manchester. What Manchester has and need is number of people doing many different things and combine, create that thriving ecosystem. And that's what we have. And just like in this co-working space, we have a lot of co-working spaces that bring people together, allow that creativity to bloom. And obviously there's still a failure rate. We can talk about failures later. But every failure I had somehow helped create the next one. So I had a lot of failures and I had a couple of exits. And I'm now trying to run 3 businesses. When I turned 50, I said I want to build 5 businesses together and over a 20-year journey, and I can't even run the 3 I got, so let alone 5. But I'm doing something,
So when you failed the first time, and then you maybe failed the second time, what made you keep on going? Did you get further down the second time, or so? What was your motivation to keep going?
I think I call tech entrepreneurship a disease. There are two types of individual. One that they experience it and they know it's a disease and they just get away and never come back. But for some reason, I consider myself as quite weak. I'm actually never found the way to get out of it. From time to time, I tried. So, for example, when my first company failed, one of the things I did, because I didn't actually know what I was doing, I didn't know anything about electronic invoicing. I didn't know anything about invoicing. I didn't know anything about accounts payable. I didn't know anything about accounts. So here I was trying to build a solution without having any domain knowledge. But guess what? So to overcome that lack of knowledge, I ended up blogging. And I became world's #1 blogger on invoicing. So companies like Citibank, SAP were asking advice from me, a person who didn't know anything about it. And that these mega companies are asking advice because they thought I knew something. One of the things I did was that I talk about not just about what we were trying to build, but we talk about all the other competitors in the marketplace. So that led to building that knowledge base. But that didn't help me to actually build the company because I failed. And, there were a number of reasons why I failed, but key one is lack of knowledge, really, of what I was doing. So one of the things that happened, because due to lack of knowledge, I was talking to everybody. And I was analyzing our competitors. And I met a competitor called Account is based in Bangor, run by a chap called Rhys Jones. And then they all thought I knew. They all wanted my advice. I mean, these are the people actually doing it. I'm just talking, right? That's how bizarre it became. So I went to see them, and I had another competitor called Causeway Technologies, run by Phil Brown. And after I failed, Phil hired me to get a brain dump into the organization. And Rhys, who ran Accountis, got me to visit them. So a few months after, I started what was then called Open Coffee. Same as Techcelerate Coffees that, Michael, you attended just now, but it has slightly different branding. It's the same format, meet in a coffee shop for 2 hours, network and do deals. And what happened was that Rhys actually came to the very first event. This is a boom of Web 2.0, March 2007. And Rhys, now I stopped my first company, Rhys is still running. And actually, I found a buyer for Rhys's company because everybody thought I knew. So this guy flew in from to Manchester Airport, met in a pub, and he said, "Who should I buy?" I said, "Buy Rhys." There was 3 companies. I said, "Buy them because they are the right one for you." And a couple of months after, they actually acquired the company.
So how did you know that buyer, that investor, that
Everybody knew me because I'm the guy they come to learn about electronic invoicing, even though I didn't know anything myself, right? So SAP flew me to Vienna to attend this annual conference called SAP Sapphire, right? And that's when I discovered Twitter, for example, because there were other bloggers who went, but they were like amazing bloggers. I was like, didn't know much, but I was talking.
So how were you faking?
I wasn't faking. I was clearly saying I don't know anything, but I was talking about others. So by talking, by analyzing, I was learning, but I was not building. I was trying to build. That's why I failed. So I wasn't lying. I wasn't faking. I was talking genuinely about it, which sort of attracted other people because nobody else was doing that.
Yeah, but there's a difference between faking and lying.
I never did faking.
No. Okay, so
I don't buy into fake until you make it.
You don't?
No, I can't stand it.
Why is that? Because with some people, it's not, you don't know what you don't know, and so you.
But I will tell you I don't know what I don't know. I can't. I suppose sometimes everybody has to lie a little bit, but I try not to lie.
Okay.
Right, I try to be as transparent as possible because if I lie, I can't find. I'm not comfortable. So I try not to lie.
I mean, I think a lot of founders they would see it more as faking, and I mean, you get a lot of people talking about imposter syndrome and faking, and and I think that when you don't know stuff, some people see it as a sign of weakness to actually say, well, I don't know about that. And they may check Google, or they may, now that we've got AI, they may check ChatGPT, and then they may put it forward as their own. You don't kind of agree with that?
No, the problem is that if you lie, people will find out. Then you have
Fake.
to tell more lies. Okay, people don't want to use the word lie, but you're basically lying, right? So faking means you are actually pretend to be something, somebody who you are not, right? Or knowledge. So, but I was afraid that if I did that, people will find out. So therefore, it's better to say I don't actually know. But not knowing resulted in me blogging. So by blogging, I was analyzing what they were doing. So I was trying to come up with a model that sort of like the next level, nothing to do with AI. But so that's why other people seem to have respected me.
So when you were blogging, did you see that as a kind of a new career path for you, or?
No. I was just trying to find a way to. So when I write, basically it reinforces what I know, or it helped me to know it better. So it just helped me. I started blogging in, I think, 2005. There's a movement of bloggers came about, and that helped me. There was an organization that catered for the industry segment I was in. So that made those connections, and Reese is a Techcelerate member today, for example, accountants. So the second company I started, because we met in March 2007, and the Web 2.0 was booming, and we are, the invoices are paper. So it's about documents. So we thought, let's do something around document sharing. Let's have a go. And the SlideShare, I don't know whether people remember them, they came out the year before. So what we thought was, wouldn't it be nice if you can create YouTube for documents? Same experience, socially shared. So we created eDocker. And we didn't need any money. Reese knew how to code. And then I brought 2 other people. And among ourselves, if we did what we were supposed to do, we don't need any assistant. The biggest spend we had was paying something like 300 or 400 pounds for a logo. Today, logos are free because you got, Canva. But that was the craziest amount we paid. And then that was my second company. And then the next failure within that was not actually failing the company. The founders left me because they couldn't see whether we're going to go anywhere. But crazy thing is, the year after we founded, I got picked up as one of the UK's 20 hottest tech companies. And then we toured San Francisco, and BT wanted to do a deal with us. So many others. But my co-founders, didn't want to do anything. So that was total disappointment on my part, and obviously they left. At the time, only Reese had shares. So Reese was very kind, sold me his shares for £1. So there was just me left with the second company. I didn't know how to build a product. I didn't know anything. So I was based out of SciTech Dasbury. They had some small grants which I used to outsource. And somehow I sort of got it going. And then eventually a Florida-based company came and bought us. So this month, after 18 years of eDocker, they're going to shut down. That company that acquired eDocker from me got acquired, and the new, the second company, that if you look at the chain, the new acquirer don't want eDocker, so they're shutting it down. Bit sad, but it lasted 18 years, so that was not bad.
That's a bit of a legacy there for you, Manoj.
Yeah, yes.
You've built a very founder-first ecosystem in Manchester. So I think you and I were talking about this before. What do you think about the Manchester tech scene at the moment when it's compared to other regions like London?
I can't talk too much about London because London is the capital of UK. And take any country, most countries, the capital attracts the most money, most talent, because there's immense amount of trade taking place compared to rest of the major cities. So in Manchester, we like to think we are the alternative capital. But is it true? It depends. Obviously, with D-Lite, we track data. And Manchester is always floating between second and fourth place in terms of the total investment gone in since we start tracking data. Um, and then if you look at London, 80-85%, don't quote me on the percentage because I haven't got the data in front of me, about goes to London, which is rightly so. And then, Manchester has its fair share, and Manchester is now definitely booming. We'll probably talk about a bit more about investment, but we now have homegrown investors. Procura, for example. It doesn't matter your views. They've never ever actually invited me to visit them ever. Don't even get. But that's beside the point. But nevertheless, in terms of the city, they are here. They have invested, which is I think they were one of the first to sort of invest. And then you had all the other typical venture capital firms like Mercia. It used to be called Enterprise Ventures. They are here, and plus we now have quite a number of tech founders who build, exited, and come back and invested. So it is booming. Yes, there are problems, but Manchester is thriving compared to what it was a long time ago.
Okay, I mean, I think it's fair to say, yes, there is more investment and investors investing in Manchester startups. But one of the things that I found personally is that a lot of the investment organizations, they don't invest in pre-seed or seed companies, and that they're more interested in investing at maybe Series A. Is that something that you found with with your data?
So the investment landscape has changed. So if you look at the traditional, where venture capital started from, they were investing into more scientific, more experimental ideas at the time, which require that capital to get going. But these days, or last 2 decades, there has been majority of them are software companies, software product companies. So it doesn't have the same cost to get up and running. Nevertheless, capital is required.
So I agree, Manoj. There are a lot more investment organisations based in Manchester and investing in Manchester startups. But one of the things that I found is that there are less organisations investing at pre-seed or seed stage, and that they're now mainly based at investing in Series A. Is that something that your data supports?
No, there is actually pre-seed investment going in. What you have to understand is that pre-seed now is not the pre-seed 5 years ago. In the past, pre-seed meant that you have an idea, you might have something
On a napkin, and people give you money.
Yes. But that's no longer there because if you think about it, there are a large number of tech companies, and they're all trying to get investment. And therefore, it has created an environment where the investors call the shots, and they can pick the best companies, the most de-risk companies they can, and they are looking at later stages. So the pre-seed has now become what used to be like seed or Series A. So typical pre-seed, you probably need about £10,000 monthly recurring revenue type environment, and seed need a lot more. So seed is in a way the past Series A, which is around 1 million annual recurring revenue mark. Obviously, there are exceptions. There are deep tech investors looking for some deep technology, but this AI boom has also created a lot of problems for investors as well, because how do you pick a winner when the market is changing so rapidly? If you back an AI company now, would they be live tomorrow because somebody is going to come up with something cleverer than that and then become almost redundant? So why would the investor put money in? So there are lots of dynamics at play. And then you got quantum computing coming up, which is going to be the next thing. It's already here. There are investment going into that. One of the companies founded by some Brits and Americans with alliance to Britain called PsyQuantum, who's had 1 billion investment, and they set up their UK based in SciTech Daresbury. So if you look at that, you have obscene amount of capital going into some companies, and then tiny companies. I think the problem is that you can't just look at the idea and say it's a good idea or bad idea. It is it's based on execution. You could if you can execute well, even if a bad idea, maybe you can create that market. It's very hard. Mm-hmm. So investors are using pattern matching, and they're trying to sort of guess who's going to be the winner, and that's why they're going after big opportunities.
Yeah, but you know what? In reality, VCs and a lot of investors, they're not actually very good at choosing a winner. I mean, so if we look at VCs, they require typically 10 times return, because nine of the 10 investments that they put money into will fail. So the one venture that actually does yield results has to cover the losses from the previous 9 failures. So in reality, VCs are not actually very good at picking winners.
So it's the whole ethos there is not trying to find everyone, trying to turn every investment into a winner. So if the fund, if you're looking at a fund, let's say 100 million, and if one winner is going to produce $1 billion, that's good enough for them. So the maths work on their behalf, but it's about picking at least one of them to be a winner.
But why are they so bad at only finding one?
I don't know the answer, but it has always been like that for a long time.
Do you think bias comes into that?
I don't know. I don't have enough evidence to say bias comes into that. But I think it is very hard to bet who the winner going to be, especially given the market is so dynamic. It changes, and it comes down to, end of the day, could the founding team execute well and create that market opportunity? And the VCs are looking for game changers. They're looking for leaders. They're not interested in company becoming the 5th largest company. They want it to be either the 1, 2, or 3rd, right? So it's very hard to guess who's going to be that. So there's a lot of unknowns, and I think now the crazy thing is that the AI is trying to pick the winners for VCs. And I think we're going to get into a crazy situation where the AI is going to do the pitching, AI is going to do the selection, and what's going to happen.
AI is going to come up with the ideas as well.
Yes. So, are there any humans involved in both sides? Gladly, I don't have to worry about that because, I'm not chasing after investor money. But it is getting crazy. At least, most of the processes involved in deciding who to invest is now done using various AI agents, etc.
Yeah, well, if they're not going to build these biases into these AI agents, then maybe in relation to that 0.24% that we're talking about, maybe there'll be an improvement in the level of investment that does go towards underrepresented founders, because these AI agents, hopefully, as I said, they won't have these biases against females or from other groups built into them.
That's possible, but they are also looking at the existing data. So existing data might be saying something else. But I think when you talk about underrepresented or female founders, I think what's also happening is that obviously there is a recognition of lack of investment going into some of those groups, but the groups themselves are becoming stronger. So there are female-only tech firms. Perhaps not enough, but there are. So we run 2 free press release sites. One is called UK Tech Investment News, and we have a section just called, it's just a tag-in, so it just filters female-founded tech companies. And if you see there's a fair number of female founder-led tech companies raising investment. Maybe not enough, but nevertheless, it's much better than what it used to be. And in the north, I'm terrible with names, but in the northwest, there are a group of female executive founders come together to help other female founders. Obviously, then they would still pick the very best out of the opportunities presented. So, there's been other minorities where, the people come together to create funds, especially for those minorities. So I think it's better. It probably is not enough, but it is a lot better than 5 years ago. That's how I see it.
Okay. And just touching on AI, do you think that we're living in an AI bubble? And with all bubbles, at some point, they do pop.
I think so. So, the traditional way to look at a tech startup is that we are trying to solve a problem. So you got to have a problem and you need to come up with a solution, and your solution got to be compelling. It has to be better than what's existing in the marketplace. So that still applies, especially if you are selling it to humans. Now, your customer, who is your customer, is questionable. Is it a human? Is it a machine? What is it, right? So what you now find is that there is the LLM, the big players like, let's say, OpenAI, Claude, Microsoft, Google. They are the people who spend money on the infrastructure and getting this LLM. And there are a plethora of startups building on top of them. And what they are doing is they're adding features. So if you want to write a winning pitch deck, I'm sure I can't remember the names, but there's definitely a bunch of AI players, Gen AI players, which can help you. And there are features. And eventually, we got the same question in the past. If you try to raise investment, one of the questions that investors typically ask is, what happens if Google come up with that idea tomorrow? You will be wiped out. Actually, it's not true. Because when I was running eDocker, Microsoft tried several times to create a similar environment. And they couldn't, because the commitment was not there, right? So it doesn't matter. So you could argue saying OpenAI, obviously creating a lot more functionality, would replace whatever the feature-based startup that's out there using their own API. So I think there's going to be a lot of AI plays. I'm in a community called a builder community called Peerlist, where I can see people pumping out new products every day. They are all SaaS type products. They put a pricing page. They get some traction, but it is questionable in terms of could they build a sustainable long-term business, and because they are just features of something else. I think there's going to be a lot of problems with tech startup because of that. People are looking for quick wins, and then you got vibe coding. Is that sustainable? We all try to use some level of AI. So the vibe coding allow you to sort of build something and release it almost overnight. But you still got to build a business. And some of these become a hit. They acquire a lot of users, customers, etc. But the sustainability-wise, what are you trying to do? It's a very chaotic time period I think we are living in.
I think it's a bit of a gold rush at the moment.
Yes. Yeah.
And companies that getting there now, and I suppose that's why it's so hectic and so busy. They're the ones that hopefully are going to be the companies in 5 years' time that are the household names and the household brands. Hopefully, but I still think personally that there's going to be some kind of a downturn in AI, because there's just so many people saying that I'm building an AI product, and at some point, that bubble has to contract. I mean, as it did in the, what was it, the 19... When was the first, bubble crash? Back in... When was it?
There was a tulip crash, but that was around investment.
Sorry?
There was a crash around tulips, people buying tulips and selling, yeah.
Yes, yeah. That was before my time, Manoj. Yeah. Okay, so... Let's move on to your most recent success story. We've talked about the failures. Let's talk about what I believe is a success story. You may disagree, and you're still building. SkilledUp Life. I personally, and you, I mean, you know that an advocate for Skilled Up Life. I think it's an incredible idea. You know, offering free global volunteers to early stage startups. What inspired you to start it, and what keeps you, you know, building and moving forward with Skilled Up Life? Because I know that you've had a lot of detractors from Skilled Up Life, but what keeps you going? And again, why did it start?
So, as I mentioned before, the very first startup, I had no domain knowledge, and it was just an opportunity I stumbled upon. So, the problem that Skilled Up Life solved, I lived with it since 2004. I never had enough capital to build a team to execute whatever that idea I had. So I lived with the problem, but I didn't know what the answer was. When COVID happened, and in March, it's quite interesting, March is a good month probably, March 2020, government decided to keep everybody at home. They introduced furloughed system or scheme, and there were people staying at home, having to look after kids 24/7. If you lived in a flat, you couldn't go out, you were stuck in there. It drove people nuts. So I came with I saw somebody mention something, a chap called Anne Chisnell, he used to be part of Skilled Up Life, mentioned something about somebody want to sort of give their time. I jumped on that idea, and I think it was 1st of April 2020, then I had a meeting with Techcelerate members on 2nd. By 7th, we went live with what's called Furloughed Life. We got called by BBC, etc. And I got a barrage of criticism straight after that. People want to take me down, and it was getting crazy. And the idea was that this furloughed individual has so much knowledge, experience, and what if we can, because they can't earn anything, you know, the government paid their salaries or partially, they can work for the employers. So they were sitting there idle, this talent pool, and I thought, wouldn't it be nice to sort of plug them into tech startup who doesn't have that capacity. So we created Furloughed Life, ran it from April to July. With subscription based, so we had about £400, and everybody was criticizing me, and I didn't know what I was doing clearly at the time. So we handed over all that money to NHS charities. There's a thing called NHS charities. If you want, you could donate to them. And then on 1st of August, I went live with Skilled Up Life using that knowledge. I spent 3 days hacking WordPress. That's all. You know, even after 5 years, that's all we got. We are obviously building version 2.
So how long did it take you to build the site?
3 days.
3 days?
Yeah, WordPress. Right? So, I mean, now it's falling apart, but we have so much operational knowledge. So currently, our own volunteers are building version 2 from ground up. No AI involved. Maybe there's AI in terms of assistance, but we are not building any AI. We're just basing up, traditional technology. So, that's where sort of we started. So the idea is very much trying to solve my problem, which is, I never had capital enough, never had enough team members. Now the idea is that for a small subscription, you could have 30 people, 100 people if you can manage them. So it brings another level of, new challenges, which we are overcoming, but lack of capital for hiring people is no longer an excuse a tech entrepreneur can use. Tech founders, including myself, we have a lot of excuses why we are not performing well. And one is, we haven't got talent, or we need money we need venture capital to hire people. That problem is solved. We have the talent. You got to learn how to use that talent. Skilled Up Life today got 62,000 people. Obviously, it's just a scratch in the surface because somebody said there's about 8 billion people in the world, maybe about 5 billion, in the right age group. Our market is that. So it's solving, basically the last few startups, they're all solving my own problems. And if nobody else get value and I solve my problem, I'm quite happy to take that chance.
Okay, so have you faced any pushback about Skilled Up Life?
Yeah, so obviously the previous one is Furlough Life. The big pushback, strangely, is, we are serving the world, and the pushback always come from Manchester.
Oh,
Yeah. So I even tell you, when my second company, eDocker, there was, I can't remember his name. All I know is he used to work for BBC. Came out and said, what is all this eDocker is? I just created it overnight. So he obviously is a coder. He put together something, and he was arguing with me rather than supporting me, saying, this is somebody in Manchester doing something. He's going ahead with, heavily funded Silicon Valley companies. That's not how. So my own experience with Manchester is Manchester isn't supportive in most cases. And I never sort of spend time trying to analyze it. And most of the time, what I try to do is that, if I'm not in somebody's club, I would create my own club, right? And that's the same thing that, my message for any underrepresented group of individuals. You don't, if you feel like that, just go and create your own thing, because there's enough of you out there. Just support each other, and, you'll get something out of that. So we had a lot of pushback. We used to have people coming on board and shouting, obviously, words in filth. And they all came from Manchester, because you could check the IP address, and it's Manchester. But that's died down now. It hasn't happened recently. At the beginning, we had no evidence to say that what we did was actually useful. Now we have, in terms of volunteers, we have people who have joined EDF, Capgemini, Lenovo, these big companies, and all they did was got the experience through us, either through us or our companies, and they used that to land their dream job. So we have the evidence to prove it.
Why do you think there was so much pushback from people in Manchester?
So I have been living in Manchester since 2000. So I can't really say whether the similar environment exists in other cities, but clearly there's a clique mentality in Manchester. I remember this young guy wanted to run a mega conference in Manchester, right? And what I've also seen is that from time to time people come into tech scene and they ignore what happened in the past. So that creates a level of friction. So when this chap, I'm terrible with names, I can tell his name, but I'm not 100% sure that's his name, so I'm not going to say. So he came and ran this mega event. He has to be bailed out because he brought Steve Wozniak, and he was very expensive. But he did it, and I and one of my friends, Stuart Townsend, we forced ourselves, went to see him and explained to him, saying, you've got to get the community involved, because otherwise you're not going to get the support. And sadly, he didn't get enough support, didn't get enough audience, but he did something that no one else did, right? So, and then we saw that when Tech North set up here, this, they didn't want to engage with the community. They sort of planted themselves and said, oh, we are the people who's doing it. There's nothing happening. Even the people who took over, so I finished Techcelerate in 2013. Around 2012, there's two young guys came into the scene, and basically they got up, and one of the people that seemed highly respected, journalist, got up on the stage and said, there's no tech ecosystem here. He was part of Techcelerate at the time. So people have, it always puzzled me, why would you say, you're part of a community and then you get up and say that community doesn't exist. Perhaps they say that because the community wasn't to their liking. But they were in it. They were getting advantage out of that. But I think people are people. I think if I spend time trying to understand why they do certain things, I'll probably go nuts, right? So why bother with that? Focus on what I want to do and ignore the rest. That's what I work on.
I said that, I mentioned that you received pushback. Now, the majority of volunteers on your platform, you would admit that they are based in Nigeria and other parts of Africa. So, first of all, why do you think that is? And what does it reveal about global talent, opportunity, and bias as well?
Okay, so I think there are cultural aspects to here. sometime when earlier I went to Manchester Business School where I got the MBA from, and I said, listen, I'm building this. You should do some research on us because, I can give, it's not like revealing people's identity, but I can give you overall picture, and it's a really interesting topic. So prior to starting Skilled Up Life, I didn't know a single Nigerian, right? And the first Nigerian we took on, I think it was Godwin Mayaki. He's our head of operations now. And he joined not because he needed to get experience. He joined because he felt it was good for his country. He felt it will help the Nigerians elevate themselves. Now, you have to also realize that Nigeria is a 300 million population, and there's a significant diaspora, right, across the world. I have never been to Nigeria, and I want Skilled Up Life to be successful so that it will fund me to travel around the world and meet these people, interesting people. And the Nigerians seem to wanting to tap into any opportunity they find. And the volunteering aspect seems to be built into the culture. And they seem to have lots of degrees. They seem to be doing lots of different things and seem to be juggling, and they love what we are offering, right? There's obviously, if you take any society, there's good and bad. There's different levels of performance, but they are really willing. So that's why we got, 44% of Skilled Up Life community is from Nigeria. And I think if you look at, put together Africa, is around 67%. The challenge we have is that we need to balance this out. But we can't, so far we haven't found any other community that is as keen as Nigerian. I mean, I'm talking about other African countries. They're not as keen as Nigerians. So there's something in Nigeria. The big population also helps.
So what do you think it is about Nigeria that they stand head and shoulders above most other countries when it comes to volunteering and onboarding onto your platform?
Yes, that's what I said. They're looking for opportunity, and we give that opportunity. We give them hope. So my biggest problem is I'm disappointing them because we don't currently have enough tech startups. So we are not doing anything new. We're just packaging it in a new way. But there is a significant misunderstanding in the marketplace that because they are volunteers, they are not good. They're going to suck up my time. I don't have time. I'm already busy as a founder, CEO, doing my thing. So they are not engaging. Then they believe that the volunteers can't help. So my solution is that I've got to prove that I can build a company, which is Skilled Up Life, using volunteers, and we are our best customers. So we are doing everything using our volunteers. We've given a couple of jobs. We don't have enough revenue to, we want to create more jobs in the future. So that is our bugbear, really, because I actually thought my job would be much easier because, I lived with this problem. If I'm given 10, 15 people, my God, that's a huge boost to what I'm trying to do. But for some reason, it hasn't happened. So I'm very grateful to you, Michael, for being a big advocate. I know you are getting value. Obviously we knew each other before you started using Skilled Up Life. I understand some of the challenges you had. So, you're a great role for us, but it hasn't gone viral. So another thing with tech startups is that
Can I just just delve into that a little bit more, Manoj, because you say it's not gone viral, okay, and your language, you're very diplomatic, and one of the things I've noticed is that you haven't mentioned anything at all that there could be some possible bias against your platform because of the fact that most of the volunteers are from a certain area of the world. That it seems as though that's something that you don't really want to think about or focus on. Would I be correct in thinking that?
No, I think first of all, if there's any bias, first of all, they need to come on board and understand. They don't know, the people, tech founders don't know that majority of our talent is from Nigeria. They don't know. They only know once they start using us, right? So it's not like we are going out and publishing saying, oh, we got so many. I mean, we do talk about it, right? Because I try to be as transparent as I could. But I think, sometimes the Nigerian issue has caused problems because we have quite a lot of partners in Nigeria, and we're sort of not really activating and driving them because we don't want, that community is growing, the percentage is growing. So we are trying to offset that with different strategies. I think the issue is that we are trying to build a brand for the whole world, and for one stage we had a significant proportion of Indonesian on us, and we still got them, but that growth has declined because we don't have anyone running that. We had one person running that, and that's why we got so many Indonesian. So I think sometimes one person can make a big difference. So I don't think that's a problem why people are not using us. I don't think that's the case. It's just that there seems to be lack of awareness, which is partially my fault. And I think one of the things that withholding us is that we are still running that 3-day WordPress hack, which is so in terms of the product, it hasn't evolved at all. We have a lot more professional experience, which we are sharing with our customers. But once we got version 2, we will start to evolve. So we lost a couple of years because of this issue of not deciding the way forward with our product. But the whole idea is that volunteers are not the same as paid talent. There is no financial incentive. So your engagement model has to be completely different from any other talent base. There has to be a win-win. If there's no win-win, it will fail. So we have a significant challenge in terms of educating our potential customers why they should be using us. To me, it's no-brainer, but sometimes the obvious isn't obvious to many people until you sit down and explain. Once you explain, people get it. And what I'm hoping is that once we got version 2, I also have excuses. Our growth.
You're a founder. We all have excuses.
Right? So that excuse disappears as soon as we go version 2, because I can't then hide behind saying we haven't got the right product. So what we plan to do is once the version 2 is out, we need to make it stable. Once it's stable, we can evolve the product, and we will build all the tools HR tools need to manage a team of 100 volunteers coming from multiple countries in multiple teams, so that our founders, the failure rate or the churn we have will reduce, because we are building it into the product, the practices that work, so they don't have to think about how to create. So if you're a first-time founder, perhaps you have no previous experience of managing people. You have no idea of how to create systems and processes, which all companies has to do eventually. So we want to make that available so that they don't need to think about it. It just is in the product. So some of the pains that you might be going through will disappear, and when we start building, and we'll continue to build.
But I think there also needs to be a kind of education process with Skilled Up Life, in that when I first joined, well, first of all, when I was made aware of the platform, I didn't think it was for me at the time. I was bootstrapping, and I didn't really want to bring on board and train. I thought I didn't have the time to train people, and so I thought, no, it's not for me. And then I kind of realized that you can't do this on your own. I think too many founders think that they can do it on their own, and you can. I mean, what's the expression? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, build a team. And so for me, I realized that I really did need to invest in a team. And when I first came on Skilled Up Life, I did it wrong. I tried to do the HR, I tried to do the interviewing, I tried to do the recruitment, the training, the whole thing on my own. And so at the beginning it didn't work. And I had one of those quantum leap moments, and I realized, Mike, you're doing it wrong. And I think your advice kind of, because sometimes we get advice and we say, yeah. And then once we've done it our way and it doesn't work, you kind of remember the advice that you were given. And then you think, okay, maybe I'll try the other way that I was told. And I remember you saying, or I remember a podcast, and it was talking about building a HR team. And then I thought, okay, I'm gonna try this. So I recruited 2 HR volunteers, and I can honestly say, from recruiting those 2 HR volunteers, my engagement with Skilled Up Life just rocketed. And I'm proud to say I'm building my startup with Skilled Up Life volunteers. And one of the reasons why I wanted you on this podcast, Manoj, is because I truly believe that if you are a black or underrepresented founder and you want to build a tech business, Skilled Up Life is a new way in which you can do that. Previously, we were relying on angel investors and pre-seed investment, to allow us to scale and get to the next level. But that's all changed now. And I think, if you're a first-time founder, you need to look at the different ways in which you can build your team, scale your business, and get to a point whereby you can actually seek investment. And I really do believe that Skilled Up Life is one of those vehicles that can get a founder to a stage whereby they can get that investment, and then hopefully they can then take on board some of these volunteers and give them either a part or full-time job. So from my perspective, Manoj, thank you. And you can pay me later. But seriously, this is a really innovative way in which founders can actually build and get traction, so that they can actually go and get investment if they need it.
Yeah, so I think, tech entrepreneurship is all about identifying a problem and solving it, right? So that's exactly what we're trying to do. So in terms of what you just described, a Manchester-based company called Cytex used us for 20 months, and then they went on to raise 1.6 million seed funding. That still remains in terms of, if you think about investment, that remains the best case study that we have. But what we want to do in the future is that we still believe that there's 2 elements. There are a number of things you need to build a successful startup. One is you need some amount of cash. You don't need to have significant cash, but you need to have cash. You need to have a team. You need to obviously have an idea and be able to execute. So what we are doing is we are bringing the team to you, but you got to learn to execute. And version 2 onwards, we will try to reduce that knowledge gap that you had, which is doing your way versus listening to us. We didn't know the answer ourselves. It took us 13 months to figure out that HR is the way forward. Now, the other thing with HR is that tiny tech startups don't even have HR. Even after, once they got 2-3 rounds of investment, that's when they start building their HR team. But with us, you got to build on day one. Now, the version 2 also will reduce the burden on HR, because right now people can apply to any opportunity. We will have some restriction in place to make it sure that when they apply, they would have to actually submit a pre-qualification question, answers to a set of questions. So that itself will reduce, and the applications will be of a higher quality compared to what you are getting now. So we'll introduce the technologies or features and functionality that will make it easier for founders to leverage us. right? So these are all the practices that we got now because we have been operating in Skilled Up Life for 5 years, using volunteers ourselves. When we started, we didn't use any volunteers. It was just me. I mean, I started the whole thing, just me doing everything, right? I'm not asking for sympathy, just as most of us do that. But now you don't have to do that anymore because thanks to the community we got. I think, so I don't know whether you're going to ask this, but I'm going to tell you. So what Skill Up Life is helping is to actually get an understanding of what's happening around the world. Not talking about politics here, but there is a significant issue, good and bad, due to AI, technology advancement. There's continually going to be less jobs out there. There's mass reductions already, redundancies already taking place. Even if you upskill to know AI itself keep evolving, and it's questionable how many people do we need going forward to produce whatever we need, right? So in one respect, all we are doing is we are collecting humans on both sides. We are collecting people who can create things, called founders. We are creating people, we are collecting people who could actually help them, as right now within our space as volunteers. But we need to actually start digging in and trying to understand what the future going to be like. And then how do we help people in order to be ready for the future? So those are sometimes maybe a little, I'm not a great thinker myself. Maybe those are areas some of the other people need to sort of come and take a look at what Skilled Up Life is trying to do. We're trying to also create a movement, as adults, as during adult life, we go and get more education. Now, getting education is dead easy. You could get a Harvard, whatever the certificate, just, free some of these things, right? So getting education is not hard, but getting experience remains hard, especially if the opportunities are getting less and less. So we want to change the way how we lead our adult life. We want to make it such that every time you want to get some experience, jump onto Skill Up Life. So you might use us now and may come back in 5 years' time. We want to be here. So we want people to sort of, this movement allows you to tap into us, and it's offered free of charge to, you commit you give away time, but in return you get a lot of experience. So this will allow more career transitions. We have directors of companies volunteering through us. We have very senior talent now. And I think we can make a significant difference to the world. Obviously, I can't do it running WordPress, so we've got to build version 2. We also need to attract other people cleverer than myself coming on board on volunteer basis and helping and shaping what we are doing. So collectively, I believe we can uplift the world. We can create a lot of, we could stimulate economies. Think about areas where there's significant unemployment. If we can help a couple of tech companies to emerge from those communities, they would go on to create future jobs. So there's a lot of things that could be done. And when you try to create a solution for the world, it's a little bit hard because you're trying to balance. Sometimes, one area goes up, and then if you take the eye off, that goes down. So it's a balancing act. So we need greater technology to help us do this. And eventually we need to manage, how do we manage 1,000 volunteers across the world? Because there's, 200 plus countries out there. And we want to provide a level playing field. So you might be living in a cave or a beach, vice versa. And if you got access to internet and you are committed, there is no limit to what you can achieve. You could get, within our own organization, you can get operational experience, management experience, leadership experience. Then it's up to you to work out how to leverage those and get monetize your learning through getting a job or getting a gig.
So to achieve those global goals that you just mentioned, you'll need investment, right?
No. What do I need investment?
Okay. Do you want to elaborate on that, Manoj?
What's the investment for? Investments, I could benefit from investments, what I can't afford now. But I think, investment is an enabler to achieve a result, right? So if I take investment, there's going to be significant restriction on what I can and can't do. Secondly is that they will drive in the way that they see as what will produce the maximum revenue, maximum profit, maximum shareholder value. Sometimes those are essential, but I think that will divert us from what we are trying to do. If you speak to any investor and say, I've got a community of 62,000 people, they would say, why don't you actually put them into paid jobs and you take a commission and you could suddenly generate significant revenue? Then I become a recruitment agency. That's not the idea. This is to empower people and at the same time, we create new entities out of nowhere. So I think I don't think I need investment. I think if I had money right now, it would help me to travel and meet those communities, and that itself will mushroom, right? So it will help our growth rate. But then the headache that comes with that free money, or equity finance or whatever, it's probably not going to help me. So I'm doing the hard way, and I think if I got to become a better executor myself, right? It's all about execution, and so far I feel like you mentioned about success. I don't see anything successful last year. I just have an idea. I have some traction, but it's nothing compared to what it could be. So I had to, I'm still making errors, still failing inside Skilled Up Life, because why is it taking me 5 years to actually build version 2? That's just a stupid thing to do, right?
I mean, there are reasons behind everything, and everything comes when it's ready. And I think that, people say the same thing to me. Why is it taking you so long to build your product? But I think that when you're not a technical founder, in terms of you don't have the ability to sit down in the evening and write code, that is one of the restrictions. That does limit, the speed of how we can travel. But I just want to move, to talk about the investment landscape, and we may be going back a little bit here. But so you've been tracking UK tech investment through Deal Light for a number of years now, and watching the flow of capital. Now, on this podcast, we know that black founders received less than 0.24% of UK VC funding, and diverse teams still struggle for investment. Now, from your perspective, what's holding investors back?
First of all, we are not tracking such data at Delight. So we have no idea how many certain type of people got funding or not, right? So I have an opinion.
That's why you're here.
And I think I haven't sat down and worked out some numbers. So if you look at, let's take whatever I'm Sri Lankan, right? I've seen Sri Lankan founders in UK raising money. So I don't know how many Sri Lankans are in the UK, but it's not huge. But then if you look at how many of them are actually building tech companies, probably a couple of handfuls maybe. So how many of them got investment? Maybe a handful. So if you look at the proportion-wise, as a minority community, I don't know whether they are getting equal share, right, compared to the majority. So I don't have the data to actually argue about or say much about it. But I think I would look at this in a different way, and I said, if you feel that you are of a certain community and if you are not getting the exposure you feel you deserve, why don't you get together and do it? Why do you need to rely on others, right? So let's not look at these things as negative, but look at them as opportunities. And a good example is that, the female founder thing. I can actually talk about good and bad. When the first Techcelerate ran, there was nothing called female and male. And then there was a period, there was, in Manchester, it's credit to actually the people who did that, there was like a female founder group. So they only got together themselves. They didn't mix with the rest, right? But now I think that's sort of, nobody's actually really running it. So you saw today that we had lots of female tech founders at Techcelerate coffees, which is good. And I think then, we are good at solving problems. So if the problem is that your group is not getting funding, fix that yourself, right? Find the people, because there are rich people, there are people with a lot of spare cash. You just need to find a way to tap into that. So it's a problem solution fit. I don't think blame, complain to saying, this is not happening. I think you should just go and do it. Then it will probably disappear. I'm sorry, I'm not giving you the answer you want, but this is my opinion, because you could sit behind and complain, or you could just take it head on and solve it.
And you know what? I think that's what underrepresented founders have done, in that we've identified that there is a problem, and just by quantifying it, that hasn't stopped us from growing. It hasn't stopped us from still wanting to achieve. And I suppose it gives us more hunger. I mean, from my own personal perspective, I remember someone said to me, Mike, if you had been given money, you'd probably have lost it by now. And during the course of my startup, I bootstrapped, and it teaches you disciplines.
Yeah.
It teaches you disciplines. Whereas if you were given access to, I remember speaking to a founder in London, and he'd been given some external investment, and they had to end up giving the money back to the investor, because what they were trying to build, they couldn't build it. And I thought, how did they get that money in the first place? Who was the investor that invested in a company who couldn't build what they said they were going to build, and then they had to hand the money back? And then I thought to myself, you know what? What I'm building, and because I'm not at the time going out and actively seeking investment, it's going to give me certain disciplines. And even though it's taking me longer to build what I want to build, just same way it's taking you longer to build. I mean, you're still building version 2. Yeah. But because I'm bootstrapping and I'm solving problems along the way, I know that I will get to where I want to get to, rather than going out, getting investment, and then wasting a lot of money quickly trying to build something that I can't build. So I know that I'm on the right path, because we're still moving forward. We haven't got any external investment yet, but we don't have the traction yet to be able to go out to an investor and say, we're ready for you to have a look at us. And I'd rather go to an investor as a king, yeah, rather than a pauper. Yeah. And so that's my own investment journey. And I think you are right. When my parents first came to the UK from the Caribbean, and I think this kind of shapes my thinking about investment, Manoj. And my parents and other Caribbean communities, they couldn't get bank loans, and buying those bulky items, a settee or other pieces of furniture, they couldn't get loans or credit cards for them, and so they had to do what was called a partner. And a partner was where a group of friends got together, and each week they put £10 or £5 into the pot, and then one person took the pot, and they could go and they could buy that bulky, expensive item, and they just had to continue putting the £5 in the pot. Yeah. And that's how my parents got over that issue of not being able to get bank loans and so forth. And I think what you said about people from communities getting together. Because I know that people in the Asian communities, they get together and they share resources. And I think that's something that black founders and other underrepresented communities need to do. So I do agree with you on that. Rather than expecting someone else to give us what we think we're owed, we need to just do something ourselves.
So I think I think it's true that tech companies do need some money, even though we are giving the talent pool. And I think the way that we are looking at our own product roadmap is that hopefully next year we will build a module for accelerators, so that we can offer offer Skilled Up Life to accelerators and give them the insight in terms of how their cohort members are leveraging Skilled Up Life. Now, if you can then demonstrate that you as a founder is highly cash efficient, because you are putting because we charge a subscription, and based on that's your cost. Obviously, there's a time cost, and this is a return. You now got a team of 30 people, and they are doing this as a collective. Because of that, the economic value of that company is going up. So that itself then start to convince, saying, okay, so you need a bit more capital now for growth. Now you have an evidence base. So we want to start to think about how to do that, because we do understand companies need money. So we want to demonstrate how we are helping to de-risk these companies. And at some point, we want to try to bring more investors and start showcasing our best companies, the companies who got more value out of Skilled Up Life. We also need to understand how our customers are progressing. Right now, it's a placard because we are probably the worst tech company in the world. We are operating blindly with no access to data. So I have no idea how many people are volunteering for Michael. With version 2, I will know. and I could, people talk about we will know what Michael is doing in version 2, and we can also be proactive and come and say, Michael, we think you don't have enough people in the HR team, or you should be doing this in terms of marketing. And we'll try to have that information and try to help. So I think that's, so if you look at what I'm doing, I got Techcelerate, which is about the know-how, because it's a collection of tech founders. You should join as a member. Okay.
We'll speak about that.
Yeah. And what we're really trying to do is that it doesn't matter, there can be thousands of advisors, and I had an discussion with somebody who came from a government organization today about their so-called advisors, which is good. I shouldn't criticize. I'll get more backlash from Manchester there. I think, we listen to each other more than we listen to advisors, because you know that, Michael, the problems you are going through, I'm going through as well, yeah. Right? So we have this association because of that, and doing it is so hard compared to talking, right? Anyone can talk. So we want to try to somehow get that knowledge across to our founders on Skilled Up Life, because the Skilled Up Life is if we look at, we want to support anyone with an idea. You might have the craziest idea. Now you could sit on that idea and think about how the hell I'm going to turn this into something. You could subscribe to Skilled Up Life. The first plan, I'm not going to talk about what you're paying us, but for £49 a month, you could now build a team to validate that idea systematically. Now, that itself brings questions and how the hell, what am I doing? I'm a first-time founder. I don't know. What do you mean by validation, right? So there's a lot of education that we need to provide, so that, it doesn't matter if you fail, because you're only paying a small subscription, and you could try out. Sometimes you don't know how to build a team. Now, if you raise venture capital, you're going to tell the investors, I know how to build this team, but you have no experience. You could come and try it out. I was talking to a founder today, and he said, can I actually volunteer? So I said, listen, I'm trying to sell you our service, but you're saying you want to be... But I said, yeah, I mean, so his the conversation is like, I want to still use your volunteers, but can I also volunteer because I'm not actually sure what I'm doing, so I want to get that learning, which is fine. I mean, it's up to the individual. So we have this sort of crazy conversation. We have past volunteers building tech companies. We have failures, and it's just I think we need to just provide more information, somehow get that knowledge across. Wouldn't it be nice if there's like Techcelerate coffees, there's a series of worldwide event called Skilled Up Life coffees.
You say that, Manoj, and then on the other side you say we don't need investment, but to do all of that, to achieve those aims, that global success for Techcelerate and Skilled Up Life, it's so much easier when you have investment because you've got other people, because it's about smart money, isn't it? People coming on board who believe in the vision and they can actually help accelerate that growth.
Yeah, maybe I'm scared of people who are cleverer than me telling me what to do. I think the question is, I'm 57 years old, right? So I can't run like a cheetah. Right, so if I have a bunch of people who's going to run at that speed and I'm going to lag, I'm going to be out next day, won't I? So what's the point? It's a journey, isn't it? It's about enjoyment.
Pass on the baton.
Ooh, I mean, it's just, after you die, you're dead, why do you care? But it's like my kids aren't interested in Skilled Up Life at all. They think I'm doing something bad. But
let's not even talk about kids.
Yeah, so I think, I want to enjoy the journey. We might not become a worldwide success, but if I do what I want to do, and if I achieve a decent percentage of that, I think that would be a good enough job.
Okay, so we're coming towards the end of our session, and how would you define success now? I mean, you started off a civil engineer.
No, I was electronic engineer.
Electronic engineer?
Yeah, come on, civil is way down.
Okay, so you started off as an engineer, and then you became a blogger. Then you became a tech guru.
Oh no, I'm not a guru. I'm just somebody who does things.
And that is a good point, that you don't just talk about things, you actually do stuff. And I think that's one of the differences between those who can, and those who can't, they just talk about it. And I believe that you're one of those people that has actually said, there's a problem here, I'm going to do something to solve it. And there's not many of those types of people around. And I think that's one of the things that I found in Manchester, is that there's a lot of people who like to talk, but they don't actually deliver, But now that you've reached, how old?
57.
57.
By the way, there are more older people than me in Texas. So
I'm 59. So, I'm 59, but I still play on my Xbox. Okay, so now, how do you define success for yourself? And you said you want to enjoy the journey. What else is there?
I don't know. I don't think about success. I think success is, to me, one respect is that eventual exit. But I've seen many of those exits not being successful, right? I think a success is perhaps micro successes combined. So I think it's during that journey, if you can achieve happy moments, let's put it that way, I think that's worth it.
Happy moments.
Many, many happy moments. Like you saying that, you value Skilled Up Life. That's a happy thing to hear, right? I didn't pay you. You're subscribing. But I think it's a collection of those happy moments. So if you collect all that, you could say, yeah, people are happy. I created something, people are getting value. When somebody get especially Vern got the job with Lenovo, partially, she was from China. She got one of the reasons she got it was that she got experience in an English-speaking environment, and then Lenovo valued that. So, that's a happy moment. Because we are operating blindly. I don't have enough data to say we have so many happy moments. I think it's a collection of those, but I truly believe that, I think probably most people do that, I'm born to do something.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
for my first 36 years, I didn't know anything. I didn't, my parents are not entrepreneurs. They did, my father did very well. He went all the way to top, semi-government organization, and he's a lot more, I think, clever than me, achieved a lot more. But he was a very humble person. Compared to me, I tend to talk a lot. So I didn't have that DNA in terms of and I was a lot late coming in. And I think, if you look at some of the successful entrepreneurs, they actually built something, did something, sold something during their, like before they turned 18, or never done anything like that. So that maybe perhaps that's why I find it extremely hard doing what I'm doing, and not being that very clever about it. I think that, the success will come. I think if I just keep doing it, I think that what you really want to do is you want to try to go forward all the time. There are setbacks. Sometimes, we get pushed back, but you need to overcome them. And resilience. It doesn't matter if you don't create a highly valuable company end of the day, but if you had fun and, there's some sort of legacy. I don't know whether I'm leaving a legacy, but after I die, who cares, right? I did wrote a blog post in my blog. It's still there, saying what legacy am I leaving. I should go and read it. I can't remember what I said. But yeah,
I listen to quite a few motivational books, and there's a guy called Bob Proctor, and he mentioned a definition of success, and he said that success was the gradual realization of a worthy ideal. And it doesn't mention money. It just if you have an idea that you want to achieve, as long as you're moving forward towards that, then that's success. Success in your family life, success in your professional life, any area that can be applied to, and that's something that I try to live by. Okay, so finally, Manoj, if you could give one piece of advice to a founder who's building from a place of disadvantage, what would it be?
Stop complaining. First one. Second one is stop thinking that you are disadvantaged. When you stop those two, then you can achieve results. So if I look at saying there are a bunch of people who are against me in Manchester, I can't even, I don't want to name them, but I will just get angry, upset. How is that going to help me? It's not going to help me at all, right? So just ignore them, get on with it. And it's the same with I think if you feel like you've been, you're being disadvantaged, just like I said, find your community. There are other disadvantaged people, get together, combine, you have a lot of power, right? So it's just working out how you solve those problems. We all have problems, but if there's a problem, there's a solution, right? And you could, and human power is significant. When you combine and you find like-minded people, amazing things could happen. So just find, somebody said, find your tribe. That's a better way to say it. There's been startups called tribes in the past, whatever tribe. People always want to find like-minded individuals, so it's not going to change. It's the same. Don't use excuses. It's the same thing saying, there's been an argument for a long time. Oh, nobody in Manchester's investing. If that's the case, go and find where the money is. Stop arguing about it. So some people went to San Francisco. It's sad. We lose that talent. But you have to go where you're going to get your whatever you are looking for.
Fish where the fish are.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. That's better. I don't know what sort of EU rules you're doing that, but
Manoj, thank you for joining me on today's 0.24% podcast, and for the work that you continue to do for disadvantaged and black communities. And for me personally, your platform is a lifesaver, and I use it every day. And not only have I got great volunteers, I've made some great friends, and I've actually employed a couple of volunteers. Employee number one was a Skilled Up Life volunteer. First time I have ever dipped into my own pocket and paid someone wages, and that person was a Skilled Up Life volunteer, and that for me was a big moment. So thank you for that.
So you are living the dream, my dream, which is that we will help a tech company with volunteers. As the company grows, they will create jobs. It's not a requirement, that's a wish, and that has happened. So thank you. This is a success.
Thank you, Manoj. And for anyone listening who's bootstrapping, building, or just starting out, check out Skilled Up Life, and its website is, Manoj?
SkilledUp.life.
SkilledUp.life. It's a platform that can genuinely help you move forward when resources are limited. And for those who want to hear more stories like this, follow 0.24%, where we highlight the builders, the thinkers and the dreamers who are redefining what success looks like for underrepresented founders. I'm Michael Livingstone, founder and CEO of Dusted and 0.24%. Thanks for listening, and remember, change doesn't always start with funding. Sometimes it starts with people who simply refuse to stop building.